Because a breakup necessarily doesn't have to be suffering. It can be sad, but you don't need to suffer. I'm going to say this. A breakup can actually be one of the most beautiful growth opportunities for you ever. No breakup happens out of the blue. What was your role in all of this, in this dynamic, in this relationship? I was like, wow. And I called that person and I was like, listen, do you have a couple minutes for me? And she's like, yes. It's like, I want to blame you. We don't choose revenge. We choose. How do you start a breakup video? Probably by sharing vulnerability and probably by sharing what we're going to do today. I probably don't have to tell you how painful a breakup can be. We will today do three things. I will share a couple of my own experiences and what helped me. And I've had some painful breakups. We will talk about your brain. What happens to your brain scientifically when you go through a breakup? And I will share with you tools that will help you navigate through a breakup. I will share questions, insights, tips that will maybe trigger you. But I'm doing this here to help you, to not just suffer. I'm doing this here because I know how painful breakups can be. And I know there are people suffering immensely because of breakups and because of the wounds that are touched because of breakups. That's why this video. It's one video actually that is being requested over and over again in my community just because of my past on social media. I've been very public about one relationship and I haven't really talked about it much. So today we might change that. First of all, let me talk a bit about the breakups I've been through. The first one, now I can laugh about it, now I can smile about it, but if you would have asked me 10 years ago, it was really painful. So it was also my longest relationship. I was in a 6-year relationship beginning from age 13 to 19 with this beautiful young lady. We had, I don't know if anybody can relate, but we had this, I thought it's going to be the one, forever, and we're going to have kids together, and all of those, very first experiences you have, or I had, in terms of relating to someone was with that person. A really deep connection. And when it came to an end, I remember the time afterwards, it felt like someone died. And we were both so young and unexperienced that we didn't know how to communicate or how to navigate through this. We were so confused. And I was so confused. It literally felt like someone died. I couldn't eat. I had a hard time just going out. Especially, I'm from a tiny town. Everybody knew. Everybody kept asking. It's one of the hardest times in my life. And then I'll later on share a couple of things that helped me navigate through that, because I'm sitting here and now I can, be in peace. And if I would see her somewhere, I would give her a big hug and have nothing but respect and appreciation for that person and the time. But more on that later. And then the second breakup happened, it was, I think, 2 years ago. Yeah. If you would have met me 2 years ago when it just happened, I was again, felt like someone literally died in front of my arms. It was incredibly painful in that moment. It helped a lot that I've been through it before, so I knew, okay, even though it doesn't feel like I'm gonna, this pain is gonna be gone at some point. Remember, it's another one of those. Like we've seen this before. We had a long relationship before. I'm kind of like a relationship guy. I much rather prefer going deep with someone than just, occasional hookups. And so when that relationship ended, it was different in the sense of my relationship was public with everybody. So the first person, God bless her, was called Christina. Second one is Mariana, and we've been very public with our relationship, and so made this whole bit extra challenging because we also had a business together. We hosted retreats together. We actually hosted a retreat together when we were already separated, and that was an interesting experience. At the same time, I guess I'm sharing this because plenty of people will be watching this, will be clicking on this because they are going through a breakup right freaking now. It's nice. I hope it's nice to see one on the other side who has been through this, and I did my best preparing this episode to share tools with you, to share also what is really happening with your brain. Right? That's something really interesting, so that you understand, so that you can have some compassion for yourself and understand, oh, that's why it hurts so much. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our brains. If you do an MRI scan or an fMRI scan with someone who's going through a breakup and you have that person focusing on that breakup, on that pain, it is very interesting to witness that the same part of the brain lights up when we have real physical pain, when we get punched in the face. It's real pain. When someone is going through a breakup and they say, my heart is hurting, you kind of can believe them because it's real pain. And the next thing we need to understand about our brain and about breakups is it's almost like withdrawing from a drug. We have withdrawal symptoms. That person was probably one of the major sources for you to get dopamine, and we all need dopamine, to get oxytocin. And now that source is gone. So your whole system is like, oh my gosh, where's that person? Where's that source? We need this. It's really important. People, like, if you go on social media, you often have this like, dopamine is bad. And no, it's not. We need dopamine. Without dopamine, we're depressed. There are sustainable sources, and then there are what I call fake dopamine, like porn, fast food, those kind of things. Love and connection can be a good source for dopamine. So when that person is gone, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm missing this part of my life. If you would want to sound triggering, you could say, I'm withdrawing from that drug. So that you understand, That's partially also the reason why you want to one last check on their social media page, just one last time, like a drug addict. And I've been there. I found it really interesting when I understood, okay, so it's like withdrawing from a drug. What researchers have also found is that there is a conflict between your prefrontal cortex, you can touch it here if you're watching the video, and your limbic system. Prefrontal cortex is all about rational decision making. Your prefrontal cortex probably understands, hey, this relationship right now is over. Right now, this person is not available. Right now, we're not together. Your prefrontal cortex has that information. Your limbic system, though, is like, forget about it. This person is the only one, it's the only one that can give us that love. So there is a conflict in your brain between your rational and your emotional part of the brain. When both come together, that's usually when healing starts. The second part of this video is really to understand, okay, in our brain, there's certain patterns, okay? Certain needs that your ex-partner fulfilled. Your ex probably did a lot of good things. Probably right now you think even more bad things. But it was probably a source for certainty, probably a source for love and connection, dopamine, oxytocin. Okay, and now it's gone. So we need to understand, okay, that creates discomfort, that can create pain, that can create disbalance in us. Okay, understood. Remember that part. It's going to be important in the last bit of this video, which is also the main bit. What can we do? What can we do to not suffer for the next 10 years? What can we do to enjoy life again? To not hide ourselves for the next God knows how much time. I have 7 tools for you that help me and other people navigate through breakups. Some of them will trigger you, but that's okay. A trigger isn't necessarily something bad. A trigger is an unmet expectation. Those tips are designed to stop the suffering. Because a breakup necessarily doesn't have to be suffering. It can be sad, but you don't need to suffer. And you don't need to hate, or you don't need to demonize the other person. The person you once said, I love you to. So the first key is radical self-responsibility. That means that we focus on ourselves right now. Instead of blaming, instead of complaining, which is very easy, and I understand it, I've been there. We take self-responsibility and we look at ourselves. We look at our own parts. Because if you're in a relationship with someone, they for sure messed things up. They made mistakes. But let's be honest, so do we. No breakup just happens out of the blue. I once said that. I was like, I didn't see it coming, and I was blaming blaming the person, but I'm like, and then someone said, I remember this one sentence. Brilliant lady said, no breakup happens out of the blue. What was your role in all of this, in this dynamic, in this relationship? I was like, wow. Yeah, I played a major role. First of all, it starts with, I chose that person, no? Nobody forced me into this relationship. I made a conscious decision. I want to be with this person. And I did so many mistakes. The other person probably as well. We all do. When we come together with people, you're going to mess things up, and so do they. If you want to heal, if you want to end the suffering, focus again on what you can control, which is yourself, which is your own response. Take self-responsibility and the blaming and the complaining. I'm going to say this. A breakup can actually be one of the most beautiful growth opportunities for you ever. If you follow this first step. Take full, radical self-responsibility. Whenever you catch yourself focusing on the bad things the person did. Back to yourself. I take responsibility. Look at your part. You can't control that. All you can do is work on yourself, is improve yourself, is take responsibility for your response. And I'm going to say, might be a bit philosophical here, but it's necessary. I do not sign up to the idea to demonize the person I once said, I love you to. I'm not going to hate the person that I once said, I love you to. It's just not going to happen. And I think when we do that, we are acting out or we weren't in love. In most cases, it's acting out. Hate and love, quite the opposite experience, right? I want to have empathy for the person I spent years with. Self-responsibility is such a beautiful thing. Second thing, and this piece of advice changed the whole dynamic in my last breakup. Don't just blame them for the bad things, also blame them for the good things. I remember this moment vividly. I was at a self-development event, at a Tony Robbins event, and he said this thing: don't blame people just for the bad things, also blame them for the good things. In other words, don't just give them credits for everything they did wrong, give them also credits for everything they did right. If you can't go on a holiday because your entire business would collapse, you don't have a business, you have a job. And what you need is evergreen products. What you need are certain structures. So created an entire training that teaches you how you can change that, how you can become a business owner, not a business operator, how you can create automated income. You need structure, you need strategy. I know what it's like to be in this pain. I know what it's like to have to work all the freaking time, never being able to go on a holiday. I found a way out of it. I shared it with my clients. We know it's working. It's a proven strategy. You get access to it. Click on that link, join the training. It's completely free of charge and it might completely change your life. So take advantage now. And he said, that one person who deserves the credits for what they did right, who is that for you? Send that person a letter or call that person. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it was just still very fresh. And I called that person and I was like, listen, do you have a couple minutes for me? And she's like, yes. It's like, I want to blame you. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, I want to blame you for being such an amazing woman, for all of those amazing memories we had, for supporting me, for believing in me, for growing with me. And I went on a rant for a couple minutes just saying thank you for all the good things. Because so often with our ex-partners, because there is so much pain, we start hating, we start focusing on all the negative things. And completely forget about all the beautiful things they've done for us, that we have experienced. And isn't that, it's like hate, love. Which side are you choosing? I want to go for this side. And it also did something with my brain this moment. Rather than feeling like the love is gone, which is a really hard thing, by the way. Once you love someone, it's inside of you. It won't magically disappear out of your ears. I believe love is if you have love, real love for someone, it's going to be there forever. Whether you like it or not. Where does it go? It's not that you pee it out. So the love can still be there, but the relationship, the part, transitions into something else. Maybe into something even more beautiful. And that clicked for me in that moment. I want to move on to some practical things that you can do, and that's the third part here. The third practical tip, and we are getting really practical now, is asking for help, for support. One of the first things I did when my last breakup happened, genius move, I give myself credits for that, is I texted my therapist. I need to talk to you yesterday. I called a couple of my friends. I said, this is what just happened. I don't want you to give me advice how to fix it. Right now, there's nothing to fix, but can you please come over? I want to talk to you. And they all came and supported me. And that was already, that was one of the best things I could have done. And I know there are people suffering so much by themselves. And really the message for you is seek out for help. It's not a weakness. It's not an easy thing to do. But ask for help. If you have the financial resources, get a therapist. Really, I was on my phone I had regular sessions with my therapist when that happened. I still have, even though I'm not going through a breakup, but ask for help. Friends, therapists, you need support, and that's okay. Don't just share all of your highlights and the pleasant moments. Share the challenges too. I will forever remember the people who were with me during that time. We created the bond, love, because love doesn't just exist in relationships. It can also be friends, it can be family. Romantic love is not the only source for love. And remember earlier we talked about the brain? No, oxytocin is coming from other people, from other dynamics, from other friendships, from other sources, and dopamine too. The fourth piece of advice, and that one is really practical, for a certain period of time, cut communications with your ex. I would say at least a month. Block them on social media, not because you hate them or you want to demonize them, because you need to heal. And if you keep going back to the same source for dopamine and oxytocin, it's gonna be a loop until you break it, until you teach your brain differently. So for 1 month, even better 2 months, no communication. You can even reach out to the person and say before, like, hey, listen, this is really painful, this is really hard for me, and I want you to heal, I want me to heal, and I'm going to take a bit of time off for me to process this. So you don't end up being in the same loop. And in that time, you're going to focus on yourself. You're going to focus on healing. You're going to do a couple of other things, which is something I'm going to mention in the next point. But for now, really, even if especially if you're going through a breakup right now, make that move. Take that step. Say, listen, no communication for the next 30 days. I really need that time. I respect you. We had so many amazing memories together, but I really need that right now. So now that you have some extra time, because you're not spending that time with your partner anymore, which is, can be a good thing. It can be perceived as a bad thing. It can be perceived as a good thing. What now? Okay, we need to fill the gap. What do we want to fill the gap with? How can we find healthy, beautiful sources for dopamine, for oxytocin, for feeling loved and connected? There's this joke about breakups in the man community that, once you go through a breakup, all of a sudden you are going to the gym, that person is getting really in shape. This is a smart idea. Exercising hits dopamine, beautiful. Gets you into, hopefully, a social dynamic. Perfect. We need to be aware of that. So even learning new hobby, starting a new hobby, or doubling down on something, can be even a new business, is actually quite helpful when transitioning. I would rather have you choose an exercise so you don't end up in a work addiction, but making conscious choices for quote unquote distraction is actually quite a helpful thing to do. Exercising, moving your body, joining other communities. It's the antidote to being lonely, depressed under your bed. And even share, especially in the man community, it's one of the most beautiful things. To have support within a man group of like, hey, I'm processing a breakup. Because we've all been there. The fifth point, and I should have probably mentioned it earlier, is feel it to heal it. While I'm saying go exercise, while I'm saying, make sure you spend your time doing new things, trying new things, I also want you to know it's okay to grieve. It's okay, it's almost necessary to feel it. It's okay. It's part of the whole journey. When it happened, or when breakups happen, I would recommend to dedicate a certain amount of time to grieving. To really, that's my preference, but I would go to an ecstatic dance. And, maybe that's my way, but I like to go to a retreat. I like to speak to a therapist, to really grieve and let that pain be felt. Because the last thing you want to do is hide it somewhere. It's going to come back. And at some point, you probably also want to make room for something else, right? So feel it to heal it. Time really heals. At the beginning of this video, I told you, now I can laugh about it. Time is your friend for your brain. Time helps you. There is this beautiful English word that I have troubles pronouncing, sometimes neuroplasticity. I think I did it. Amazing. That thing happens, your brain rewiring, your brain building new neural associations, that happens over time. So time really heals. That's a stupid advice for someone who's going right now through the pain. That's why I gave you practical advice before. But maybe having a bit of understanding, okay, when you have a broken leg, okay, this will take now a couple of weeks or a couple of months. That's okay. Same is true for breakups. It takes a bit of time. It takes time to heal that wound. So when it hurts, be gentle with yourself. It's okay. It hurts. Of course it hurts. Accepting it rather than fighting it. And what do you want this end of this experience? What do you want it to be? I don't think for anybody it's going to be hate. Hating the person you love doesn't sound too good. So let's get to the first point and see how we can change all of this. Okay, now the last point. No revenge but love. No revenge but love. Practical exercise for you to do is to write a letter to that person, thanking them for all the good things they've done for you, thanking them for the time, and acknowledging that it's transitioning right now to something else. We don't choose revenge. We choose love. I'm not signing up to the use. It's all over social media, demonizing our ex-partners. That's the opposite of self-responsibility. That shows me that we have something to work on. Your own personal development. You played a role in that relationship. So instead of blaming, let's look at what we can do. I hope there were a couple of practical tips. If you're watching this video on YouTube, put it underneath this video. What helped you in the past navigate through breakups? Practical advice, bit of encouragement for people as well who are going through it right now. I see you. I know it. If you're in the midst of it, can feel like this pain is there forever, but it won't. No feeling is there forever. It's one of the most challenging times, but also one of the best opportunities we get as human beings to grow, to learn, to develop empathy. I think the good news for you at the end of this video, there are only two. I'm gonna say this, even if there was a bit of resistance. Option number one, you work on yourself, you heal, and it's gonna be better than before, that connection. Option number two, you work on yourself, you heal, and some connection that is better is waiting for you. For you, the better it gets if you take self-responsibility, if you stop the blaming, if you stop the hate. Back to love. Thank you so much, and until very soon. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, just as a little gift from our side, from my team, because you stayed until the end of this episode. 30 days of free Fire Within membership. I created the Fire Within membership to give you guys access to the tools that have changed my life, the lives of my clients, and give you also access to a community of like-minded people. We have guided breathwork sessions, guided meditations, guided visualization practices, really tools that enable you to create the life that you deserve and that you want. And it's one of the best things we have ever created. Hundreds of people, live events, sessions that will blow your mind. 30 days for free. You will find the link in the description. Thank you so much, and until next time.